What is going on, you guys? I hope everybody's doing well. It's definitely been a minute since I've posted some footage on here, so I do apologize for that. Just been busy with life and work and just getting things done around the house. I hope everybody had a good Christmas and Happy New Year. I know this is a weird time to be doing family gatherings, so I hope everybody stayed safe, but was able to see their loved ones. Currently, it is January 19th. We're halfway through January, which is crazy to me. It's been a crazy new year as far as time and scheduling for me with work. But right now, I've managed to get some time off, and today it is above 35 degrees, so I wanted to jump into the garage and just update you on what's going on. So with that being said, welcome to all the new subscribers. I see the subscriber count going up, so I just want to say welcome to you guys. My name is Tyler, and I have a slight obsession with old school Hondas. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's definitely expensive, but I enjoy it, and I want to just bring you guys right up to date on one of my projects that I've been recently working on, is my 1990 EF hatchback. So briefly, I just want to talk about what's been done to the car overall. I bought it back in 2018 stock with the 1.5 liter dual point motor. Basically the grocery getter setup. I bought it for the body. It was really clean, no rust, one owner car, which is really what I was looking for in a hatchback, because you really don't find these anymore. But long story short, that motor did not last long. I got rid of that and stuck a 1.6 single cam non-VTEC out of a CRX SI. I threw that in there for a little while. I converted it to the multi-point, drove that to work for, I'd say, 2 to 3 months. I started to have issues with that transmission, which kind of put this car on the side after I got the Subaru running. So I wasn't really using the car. I pulled the single cam out. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it. And then when I recently pulled the B16 out of my CRX, I decided, you know what? The B16 is basically fresh out of the machine shop still. It barely has 2,000 miles on it. I'm gonna put it in this car, get different mounts so that it sits better, and just basically run it because I wanted to use it. This was my intention. I wanted to use this car, so I threw the B16 in. Real quick, it's a OBD0 B16a with matching transmission. So I am still currently OBD0. As you can see, I got all the OBD0 plugs here. I'm still running the resistor box. Converted to multi-point, and it was running really good after I swapped the car. I had no issues with it. I got decent gas mileage, and I was pretty satisfied. So overall, I had, no issues dailying it. It was giving me a ton of fun. I was ready to get some footage, and I started to have an issue where the car would bog on acceleration in certain RPM, and I wasn't sure what was happening. I thought maybe it could be a distributor problem. I wasn't getting a check engine light for anything. I wasn't getting a check engine light for an O2 sensor. So I had no lead on it. So every time I would step on the gas after the car was warmed up, it would start to bog out and lose power. So eventually it would even shut off. So I couldn't really drive it at that point. It was giving me a lot of headaches, and I said, you know what? I checked a few things. I tuned it up. I bought new spark plugs. I changed up the wires. I even changed the distributor, because even after changing the plugs and wires, checking the timing, nothing seemed to change it. I'm getting good fuel pressure to the rail, and I checked all my sensors, and nothing was really solving the issue. So I looked up on the forums, like possibly what's going on, and it kind of had me thinking, the way this B16 works, and for those of you who don't know, if you buy a B16A, specifically the OBD0 first gen, it's very important that you keep the exhaust manifold that comes with the car. Unfortunately, when I bought this motor, I didn't keep that because I had intentions of running an aftermarket header and just, basically trying to gain more horsepower out of it. But when you're running on the OBD0 system, it relies on 2 oxygen sensors to monitor the exhaust gases, which basically then tells the computer how to compensate for the air-fuel ratio. So long story short, I sold the manifold, got an aftermarket manifold, and I knew that I had to run 2 sensors, but it was too late at that point when I had realized it, that the stock manifold was already gone, and I had to run 1 sensor right under the engine, and the other was a little bit more down on the downpipe. With that being said, this motor, one oxygen sensor monitors cylinders 1 and 3, while the other monitors cylinders 2 and 4. And the way it's built onto the manifold is they're next to each other. So in the setup that I have, the O2 sensors are getting every reading from everything that's coming out of every cylinder, which you would think would be okay, but honestly, the car's been running like complete crap, and I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of depending on an old school system, and I wanted to basically upgrade and update the system electronically so that way I wouldn't really run into these issues. With that being said, I have been waiting on a few parts that recently just came in the mail. I'm very excited to throw this onto the car and get started with it. Okay, so briefly, I just want to go over my parts list and what I'm using to convert to OBD1. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware of what you need already, and I was kind of new to this, so I did my research and I went with what I thought would best work for my car, and I'll try to link everything in the description. So the first thing I want to talk about is the harness that you have to buy. So this is an OBD0 to OBD1 ECU conversion harness with the sub harness adapter. This allows you to run a OBD1 ECU of your choice right into the plugs of the OBD0. Now, you must know that this is for only multi-port cars that are already converted, or SIs that don't need the conversion. So if you're running a DX or a standard model OBD0 car and you want to just upgrade your single to OBD1, you have to convert it to multi-port first, because this setup and this pinout is specifically for multi-point. You cannot just plug it in and expect the car to run if you're still on the dual point system. I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware of that. But for my specific case, with my B16, everything is multi-point, so I'm ready to go. With that being said, I went with Monotech as far as company for the harness. I just want to say I have nothing but good things to say about this company. This is what I used for the engine harness when I was running the multi-port single cam. I had no issues with it, and I actually called up for some support, and they were able to walk me through the issues that I was having. I had basically a crappy distributor, which is why I wasn't starting, but they checked me with my wiring and said I was good to go, and it ended up being a bad distributor. I've had this for a while, Zurich Industries. It's an OBD0 to OBD1 distributor conversion harness. So this allows you to plug in a OBD1 distributor into your OBD0 plugs. A lot of people just like to cut off the clips at the junkyard and just straight wire them based off of color. You can do that. I just thought it was easier and cleaner just to buy a conversion. So that came separate from this. So I bought this, and then one of the other things that was really interesting about this whole process and new to me was I had to buy an ECU, and you can't just go with any ECU. For this specific car, I bought a tuned ECU. It's running a base map, B16 map, basically, that's got some goodies on it. It's got a 2-step, the rev limiter's changed, and it's running a specific air-fuel ratio, so I will not have to worry about running an O2 sensor or a NOx sensor. That is eliminated. The computer will not look for that. Those sensors affect OBD0 cars greatly. So the fact that I don't have to worry about the ECU looking for it or worried about the sensor breaking just makes it much easier. The last thing I had to buy was an OBD1 distributor, and I went with Dragonfire Performance. This is basically the Hulk of OBD1 VTEC distributors. I've heard good things about these, so I decided to just give it a test run, see what happens. Kind of fancy with the whole red and everything like that. But overall, these are the parts that you need. You're gonna need your adapter kit for the ECU, your sub harness for any extra wires that you're gonna run. Maybe if you're running a GSR motor or something like that, you're gonna need this for the secondary butterflies. So Monotech, the company, gives you a good description of what everything is labeled and what everything goes to. So we're gonna get this thrown on the car and see if she fires up. So I'm quickly gonna just take out this old OBD0 B16 distributor. I already took out the OBD0 B16 ECU. So I'm gonna get that all buttoned up and get this thing ready for a quick start. Fairly new B16 OBD0 VTEC distributor. This can only go in one way, so don't worry about getting it wrong. This is actually the RPM plug, so plug it into the OBD1 connection and right into the OBD0. And that's that. So I got the new distributor on and the plug's all buttoned up. I did put a little oil around the O-ring before you slide it on, just so that way it doesn't damage the O-ring. But you are gonna have to time it after the car is running. But just wanted to show you guys how it looks. Kind of cool, I like it. Makes me want to do my valve cover really bad because now that thing stands out like a sore thumb, literally. So I'm gonna get the ECU plugged in. Just real quick, what else am I forgetting? Oh, for anyone who's wondering, I don't have VTEC wired up because obviously I'm gonna have to run into that sub harness. But I do have VTEC plugs that I'm gonna have to solder in, but that's for a little bit later. I just wanna make sure the car turns on and we are able to get power. Before I put the ECU into the car, I just wanted to show you guys the wiring diagram for this because it gives you everything you would need. Look, as far as VTEC wiring, so purple wire is the solenoid, gray wire is the pressure switch. And then it just gives you basically what else you would have to run if you're running an oxygen sensor. Green wires are for the IABs for GSR and H22. And then it gives you the wires how you would check for a check engine light. So I thought this was pretty cool. Once again, Monotech, like I said, I have nothing but good things to say about them. So I'm gonna get this thrown into the car, separate the little bit of wires that I'm gonna have to solder later on, and get ready for a quick start. All right guys, so we are in the passenger side footwell. I have the OBD1 conversion harness plugged into the OBD0 plugs, and then I have the other end plugged into the ECU. We are pretty much hooked up, good to go as far as being able to start it. I didn't run my VTEC wires yet because obviously I don't need those to start it. And eventually I'm gonna have to configure this computer back into the original position, even though I have all this extra wire now, because I do want to put the footwell cover back in. So we're gonna quickly start it and just make sure it runs and turns on before I do anything else. But quickly, I just want to go over again. I know I might have mentioned it earlier in the video, but you have to have this set up for a multi-point fuel injection car, meaning it's got to be set up like an SI. This is the standard model. It came 4-speed, so I had to run my extra wires in order to get this to work, meaning before the OBD1 conversion, I had to have this running originally with the B16. So I know the top row on the bigger plug of your original OBD0 plugs is all fuel injectors, so you have to run 2 extra wires for the fuel injectors. And then over here on the other plug, I think it's the middle plug, the B plug, you have to run 2 extra wires to the crank signal for the distributor. Now, I know I don't know if I mentioned this, but yes, I used Monotech for the OBD1 conversion harness, and I also used Monotech for the multi-point conversion harness. They made it easy for the pins. They send you a harness that you basically pin out to the ECU, and you can unplug it, so it's a quick disconnect, and it connects into your main harness, which you buy from them, and everything is wired up. So it's pretty much plug and play from that point on, which made this a hell of a lot easier. So my OBD1 conversion is pretty much done as far as being able to start. So let's give it a try. I'm gonna go over there and see if this thing turns on. So I got the garage door closed, so this is going to be quick. It does start. Hoping it does. Neutral. All right. Fuel pump is priming. It went off. Wow, so she started, guys, and that was idling pretty good. Much better than before when it was still OBD0. Wow, that is awesome. All right, guys, so she's fired up. I'm very happy. I'm very excited to drive it now, but that was a pretty good idle. I didn't let it run long because I don't want to get too much of the exhaust gas everywhere, but very excited that she started up. That just means that the wiring is correct. And I just wanted to briefly go over, this is a very simple setup. It doesn't take much to do. I know it might seem complicated sometimes when you're getting into cars or what things mean, but it's very simple. This is my first time converting to OBD1. I usually have always stayed OBD0. As you can see, a lot of my cars are REFs, considering I just got a 95 hatchback. But like I said, it's not hard. You're able to retain a lot of the original OBD0 items as far as the map sensor, your intake, your throttle, and you don't have to change any of the injectors. I know a lot of the times you research and you have to have everything OBD1, but I just want to remind you, all of this is still OBD0, and I'll tell you why. I still have my resistor box, and this allows me to run the OBD0 plugs with the OBD1 system. If I eliminated the resistor box, I would have to run OBD1 injector plugs because it wouldn't be getting the right resistance without the resistor box being there. So I kept everything original, my resistor box, my map sensor, the intake is original OBD0 from the B16. So the only thing I changed is the distributor. I got the conversion harness. I obviously got the conversion harness for the ECU. And that's pretty much it. You're pretty much able to run a simple setup. And I'm very happy with the way that started. I obviously have to run the VTEC wires, and I just wanted to bring up, I didn't run them because I didn't need them to start the car, but just to show you guys real quick, I have a Rywire sub harness for a B16a, and this was how I ran the B16a when it was OBD0. So you have your VTEC plugs here, you have your knock sensor, your extra O2 sensor, and what would happen is you would get a quick disconnect, which had pins that ran to the ECU, and it was a pretty simple setup. You looked up where you needed to run the pins and the plugs, and that was it. So this worked for me for a while, but what I'm going to do is, to make life easier, I'm going to take these VTEC plugs, the pressure switch and the solenoid, which also has a ground connected to it, which you need to run VTEC, and I'm going to run them to the new OBD1 sub harness right here. So the purple wire is for the VTEC solenoid, that's this wire right here. The gray wire is for the pressure switch, that's right here. And that's pretty much the only wires I'm gonna need to run this motor, or this computer I should say correctly. It's not looking for a knock sensor. I don't need to run the green wire because that's for H22 IABs or GSR. I'm also not running an oxygen sensor because the computer is tuned a certain way where it's got a certain air-fuel ratio, so I don't need to run that in. So the only two wires are actually the VTEC wires. I'm gonna have to tape up everything else, but this is pretty much how easy it is to run an OBD1 setup for a VTEC motor in an OBD0 car. So I have this old rye wire harness de-loomed just to show you guys about how much wire I'm going to use. I don't need too much since I already ran the sub harness for the OBD0 wires into the engine bay. Give you guys a peek real quick. So I have plenty of wire as far as running it to the VTEC switch, so I don't need much. And I'm going to place the ground right on that thermostat because that's usually a good ground. So I'm going to cut this. I'm going to cut this right now and strip these wires and get it all soldered up. Okay, so this is for the solenoid. And this is for the pressure switch with the ground. So this wire is for the solenoid. It's going to connect to the purple wire. We're going to remove a little bit of the plastic. Next up is for the pressure switch. So the first wires we're going to solder is the solenoid wire, which would be this plug. So this is your solenoid plug. It's a single wire. And for the OBD0 to OBD1 connector sub-harness, it is the purple wire. So I got both of these wires cut, and we're going to fray the ends and twist connect them real quick before we solder them. You want the ends to be basically spread apart, so that way when you twist them, they have something to grab on. So the end result should look something like this. Just secure, but we're gonna solder it up so that way it's a definite secure connection, and then we're gonna heat shrink some wrap over it and we should be done. It was a little hard to do to get the camera set up, but not the prettiest soldering job, but secure connection. I put some heat shrink over these wires before I obviously closed them up, so that way I could secure them and safely wrap them without having to worry. But they're all soldered up and ready to go. All heat shrinked and secure. Okay, so I got the plugs all finished up. VTEC solenoid, pressure switch, and I have that one ground going to the thermostat housing right there. That's pretty much it for the wires for me, since VTEC was really the only thing I had to wire up. I had some extra wire loom, so I wrapped all that extra wire, which is only 2 wires that goes to the firewall. I wrapped it up so that way it just has a little bit better heat protection. I'm gonna throw the intake plastics back on, pull this thing outside, let it warm up, and just see how it drives with the new ECU. I'm in the car, guys. The car is still not warmed up yet, but as you can see, the idle is really good. It's never idled that low or that nice. No check engine light. I got good response. So I'm gonna drive it, because as you can see, the idle drops back down after I revved it, but gonna let the temperature go up a little more before I take it out, see where we're at. So I got the car back in the garage, guys, and it's definitely been an eventful day. I gotta say, I'm very happy with the way the car's running with the new OBD1 setup and the ECU. I did have a little antifreeze leak when I got back to the garage. It was one of the heater core hoses, but luckily enough, over here on the CRX, I managed to have a spare one that's just been kind of hanging out, not really doing anything. So I got that swapped out. I don't have enough antifreeze to top this off tonight, so I'm gonna have to run to AutoZone in the morning, get some more antifreeze. But other than that, really happy with the setup. Just overall, really fun. I'm gonna show you guys once I can get the car on the road tomorrow, get a video out of some driving footage, but this was just basically going over the conversion, getting it running right, just what you need, the parts, and just kind of showing you how simple it is that you can convert an OBD0 VTEC motor to OBD1 and fine tune it. Now, there is one thing I want to show you guys, which I'm kind of surprised happened, but it's kind of a good example of why you don't buy $100 eBay exhausts. So I don't know if I mentioned in the video, the ECU that I bought, it's tuned and configured with a 2-step. So anyone who knows what it is, it's like basically when the car backfires and you rev it at a standstill and it bounces off the rev limiter around 3 grand and shoots sparks out the exhaust. So, knowing me, and I had to test it out, I definitely tested it out, and it kind of blew the back of my exhaust up. So let me show you real quick what I'm talking about. So we're under the car. I heard that the exhaust got really loud after I did the 2-step launch, and I come to find, voila, freaking tin can exploded. This is what you get when you buy cheap things off of eBay. So that's got to be this has got to be addressed immediately. I was like, wow, the car got really loud after the 2-step, but here you go, $100 eBay exhaust for you. Got a nice freaking slice in it now. Really dangerous because the gas tank is here. I do not want to have any issues with that. So this has to be replaced. I don't know if I'm really going to be able to drive the car, but yeah, 2-stepping and cracking the exhaust open like an egg. I gotta say, it has been an eventful day. One in which I'm happy the car is running and it's running right. The exhaust is definitely an issue. I'm gonna have to address that immediately in order to get some driving footage out. So I'm gonna see what's around, shop around, and see what's gonna work best. That's not gonna be obnoxious, because that was definitely an obnoxious noise. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope this gave you some insight to show you that it's not impossible to convert your motor to OBD1. It's pretty easy if you have the right parts, and if you're on the right track with the wiring, it's pretty simple. I am gonna clean up and put my tools away and head back inside because it is freezing. As you can see, I got the steam coming out of my mouth when I talk, so the temperature is dropping literally as I speak. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'm gonna wrap up and get out of here, but I hope everyone stays safe. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.